So one of the things that you had said in a previous conversation that we have is that it's amazing because in the business world, we don't really train our people. We don't have leadership training, right? You go through the ranks, you get promoted and you move up and you move up, but very rarely do we actually equip our people to understand what it takes to be a good leader and what it takes to be a good leader at every different level. And you just mentioned in there that at every different stage of your military career, you went through extensive training, specifically leadership training. And now you've been working in the business world for a long time. Why is leadership training at all levels something that we should be doing in business, but why aren't we?
That's a great question. And it is one of the glaring issues and shortfalls that I saw coming from 30 years in the Marine Corps to the business world. Very rarely, in my personal experience, dealing with all different types of companies, from small business owners all the way up through major defense contractors, if ever have I seen a parallel track of personal and professional development similar to the one that's established within the military. And it's not just the Marine Corps, it's the Army, Navy, Air Force, Space Force, Coast Guard. All the military service have the same type of curricula to develop leaders at all ranks. So from the first private that comes into boot camp in San Diego or Parris Island for the Marine Corps, or officer candidate school for the officers, all the way up through, we have the corporal's course, which is a year-long course for brand new staff non-commissioned officers for corporals and sergeants. Then there's a sergeant's course. Then there's the staff NCO academy. And then there's the senior leaders course for senior enlisted Marines. So for officers, it started at officer candidate school, but then it went to the basic school, expeditionary warfare training school, command and staff college, war college, and at the general officer level, they even go to capstone. So every level within the Marine Corps is constantly being exposed to and going through well-established lessons learned, interaction, immersive leadership training. At the same time, in parallel, that they're progressing up through their military occupational specialty, getting educated formally on everything that they're supposed to be doing on their professional side of things. So it's a parallel track, leadership development and technical progression all the way through. And what I saw with transitioning to the civilian world is that tenure vice leadership development seem to matter. An individual progresses up through higher levels of responsibility within an organization, but doesn't necessarily have any leadership development whatsoever. And the result is, as that individual who has been in the company and the organization for 20, 25, 30 years progresses all the way up through, they're very technically proficient. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to meet the performance standards, but they're very, very poor leaders. And now that we get into this whole discussion of leadership versus management, my personal opinion is that you manage programs, or people manage programs, and they lead people. And therein lies a rub that we can talk about forever in a different discussion. But what I've found is that companies that haven't invested in the leadership development of their people, starting at the very lowest level, all the way up through and including the CEO, will tend to have a much harder time with recruitment, but even more so retention of key high-performing individuals, because those people don't leave companies, they leave poor leaders. And a very poor leader can disenfranchise subordinates. He can cause the bottom line to suffer within an organization because highly qualified, highly productive people leave the company who have progressed up to a certain level and are major contributors to the company. Those people leave. Now you have to go and add the costs of recruiting people who are qualified to fill the position. And once you're able to recruit people, there's probably a difference, especially if that individual has been in the company for 10, 15 years, there's probably a difference in the entry pay that you're going to have to pay at this point to recruit somebody that has the requisite skill sets to come in at that lower level. And then you're going to have to spend a ton of time, money, and effort in order to bring those people up to a similar level of proficiency and productivity as the person that just left, because that senior person in the organization was just a terrible leader and caused hate and discontentment and disenfranchised those people. So from a bottom line perspective, it just makes all the sense in the world that companies can invest a very, very small amount of money in their people to show that they're interested in developing their people, one, and two, to get them the requisite skill sets required for them to become effective leaders as they progress up. Not everybody's going to want to be a boss. Not everybody who joins a company wants to be the CEO. Not every Marine comes into the Marine Corps wanting to be a squadron commander, a battalion commander, or the commandant of the Marine Corps. There are only a few people that really have that in mind. And some of them, half of those people can't be trusted anyway because they're careerists. And that's another subject that we can get into. But for those who are interested in progressing up through seniority within an organization, it's incumbent upon the highest level within that organization. And when I talk highest level, I'm talking CEO or president, has to have the commitment and the vision to see that investing a small amount of money in those people, his or her employees, can actually yield huge ROI benefit to the organization. Does that make sense, Steve?